Live. Hey, by the way, how do you say your grandfather's last name? Aloysius?
Aloysius.
Oh, forget it. Aloysius. Wow. Okay, Aloysius. I think we might be. Let me click over to make sure we are. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook, so we're live.
I see a live button. That's great.
Yeah, woohoo! Let the fun begin because we are live, and it is our pleasure today to have Nathan. Do you say Regan or Regan?
It's Regan.
Regan speak is going to be our guest today. We're super excited, and we're going to get to you very quickly and ask you some questions. Before we get started, I want to let people know how this goes. We start and end on time, so we'll end at 11:30 Central Time, and we'll end at 9:30 California time. So we always want to be respectful of our business owners' times. That's so important these days. And I am Coach Lee with Action Coach Business Coaching, and you are joining Lee and Lisa with Leverage with Lisa and Lee, and it's the Business Spotlight. We now have our own Facebook page where people can go and see historical interviews that we've done. And so excited that Nathan is our 15th person business owner to interview or influencer to interview. I'm very excited to hear about your story today. And I also want to promise everyone that at the end, we will tell you how to get a hold of each one of us, and especially our special guest, so that you can get some amazing jewelry, which you will want after you hear his story. So I'd like to have my co-host, Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself and how can we, what should we know about you?
Thank you very much, Lee. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm excited to talk to Nathan. I am Lisa Raggio with One True North Leadership and Business Coaching Solutions. We are based out of Valencia, California, which is about 30 miles north of Los Angeles, and the landmark in our area is Magic Mountain. That's how people know where we are. And we focus on developing for the business owner and the organizational leader, really having to get clear on their vision, their mission, their purpose, their points of culture. We, like Simon Sinek, like to say we start with why, and that becomes a great message for people to draw to your business. So that's a part of what's become a part of our unique selling proposition, but really looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. And we're both action coaches. An action coach is a global community. We both own our franchises, and Action Coach has been around for 26 years, which is pretty unheard of for a coaching. Well, it's the oldest coaching company in the world. And we have over 1,400 coaches that serve over 20,000 businesses. We coach over 20,000 businesses every single week. So anytime I have a situation or a challenge or an opportunity for a client that I'm not 100% familiar with, I've got this amazing resource that I can go to pull from. And one of our core values is abundance, and it really does happen in our organization with Action Coach. My coach is personally from New Zealand, so I get to speak to somebody from New Zealand every week about my business, and it's truly a global community. I'm really proud to be a part of it. So enough about me. What else do you want to know about me? No, I'm kidding. Nathan, it's about you now. I want to read this bio. You have such an interesting story, and you're so young. I can only imagine what's going to happen in your business and how you're going to impact this community and this industry going forward. So I'm glad to know you and to be following along in your success. So I'm going to go ahead and read the bio on Nathan. And Nathan is the general manager, head goldsmith, and jewelry designer at Burnell's Fine Jewelry. He's married with 2 fur kids and is a proud uncle of 6. Nathan's grandfather, Aloysius, opened a jewelry store in Western Kansas during the height of the Great Depression in 1934. Nathan's father took the store over in 1977, so he was born into the business and continues the tradition as the 3rd generation jeweler. He has won many jewelry design awards, including first place and best of show in 2016 and 17 at the Kansas Jewelers Association, second place in 2019 and 20 at the Independent Jewelers Organization, and honorable mention in the National Case Awards competition in New York in 2017. He became a Jewelers of America certified bench in 2005 after attending in Paris for 2 years, and is also certified after attending school in Paris for 2 years, and also certified Jewelers of America in senior management. Nathan is the past president of the Kansas Jewelers Association, chairman of the board at the Wichita Independent Business Association, and an active member of the Wichita Metro Chamber of Commerce. Nathan began working for Jerry Burnell in 2006 and bought Burnell's fine jewelry and design in 2013. And he's been working alongside his partner, Robin Lease, to build a jewelry store for the next generations. In his free time, he's a golfer, a disc golfer, video gamer, and a perfect breakfast maker. I'll have you over sometime to do that for me. He loves to travel and is an audiobook and podcast junkie. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're so glad to have you here. Really, we are. And the bio said a lot about you, but give us a little bit about your why and why you continue to do what you do.
Well, we're blessed in the jewelry industry in that we get to deal with customers who are experiencing some of the best times of their lives, whether it's a wedding or an anniversary. Generally a celebratory moment. We're building pieces of jewelry that hopefully their great grandchildren will enjoy and should be able to enjoy if a piece of jewelry is made properly. So we keep going. When you deal with the customers that we deal with, it's easy to keep going. It's easy to live a fruitful and happy life when every single day you deal with beautiful customers. It's not your normal retail job. It is a retail job, but it is just a world different. In speaking to my educational background, I think that the jewelry industry in general has always been the apprentice, journeyman, master style of learning. And I am incredibly blessed to know that, although I never met my grandfather Aloysius, I have no doubt that some of the knowledge that rattles around my brain is because of him and what he started. So, and I certainly know that a lot of what I know is because of my father and his brother that still, my father has passed, but Regan Jewelers is still around in Garden City, Kansas, out in Western Kansas.
Oh, that's lovely. I think that's amazing. I look at the story of the Depression and really the Kansas community really suffered in the Depression more than some parts of the country. I can't imagine what it must have been like to start a business that in this kind of, selling jewelry was not a necessity during the Depression. What led your grandfather to do that?
Sure, that's a very good question. I know that it didn't start out like a normal jewelry store and what you envision today. Jewelry stores in their day were nothing like what you experience nowadays. Aloysius was a watchmaker or a horologist.
Okay.
So he started dealing with mostly gifts and clocks, and then kind of developed a relationship in that industry, in the clock industry, and started trickling in jewelry. So although it did start out as Regan Jewelers, the jewelry store back in 1934 was not at all what you experience today.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. And so someone might have a piece of jewelry. They would have called your grandfather to say, it's broken, or I need help, or, they're more of I could sort of see them as a caretaker of the items. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And more so, knowing people in the industry as far as vendors go, he probably ran across a lot of people who it was starting to shift from clocks, not watches, but clocks, over to watches and then over to some jewelry as well. So, I think much like any modern business owner, you just kind of have to adapt to the market. You have to adapt what's in front of you. Otherwise, it will not work out.
Absolutely. Ooh, that's so true.
Well, when I think of that time too, the significance of having there be a memento, something that's tangible, when you're talking about those times that historically we look at where it's crisis-centric, people were holding on to something it is that could be, this may be the last time I see you. This may be a parting in which I have something that you can hold in your hand and say, this was a part of our legacy. This is what was handed off. So I envision that also being, a signature part of that time as well. When it comes to, you talk about being a clockmaker, think of how we used to look at making clocks, the art of it. Mm-hmm. It's in some ways, as you just said, Nathan, we have to adapt. It's our greatest strength as humans is our ability to adapt. But for that time, being a watchmaker and being able to fix them was significant.
Yeah.
It's a little skill that you wanted to make sure that you were seeking the right person to do that. When you talk about it, as we mentioned right before we went live, I look at part of your unique selling proposition, your USP, as your legacy. It's third generation. And as you said, while you may not have known your grandfather, I fully believe that what it is that he had in his artistry and his craft was able to be passed down to your father and then passed down to you. And what's cool about you is your forward thinking. So you're covering both from which you came in legacy and where you want to go, because you talk about making an impact on next generations.
Sure.
So that, if you could talk and elaborate about that, because I think business owners and business influencers and organizational leaders, this is powerful.
Well, I think one of the major benefits of me being born when I was born is the obvious. It's technology. And growing up in the jewelry industry, I saw around every corner how we were a little bit behind everything technology. Burnell's, before I worked there, got a laser welder in 2001, and that was groundbreaking for the time. Although laser welders had been out for a couple decades prior, it wasn't fine-tuned or even thought to be used in the jewelry industry. I think that was kind of the early onset problem in the industry, is that we're always a little late to the game as far as technology goes. But, at Burnell's, we do a vast majority of our designing on the computer now. We have 3D printers, so I don't have to show somebody a drawing or a pencil sketching of a piece of jewelry that only I see in my head. I can give them a 3-dimensional wax of the exact size of the piece, the exact model that's going to be made to make their piece of jewelry. It not only guarantees that we're going to make the right thing for you, but you get to put your hands on it before actually pulling the trigger to say, okay, this heirloom that I'm trying to make for my family for forever, I don't really get to see a model up until that point. So things have dramatically changed in the 20 years that I've been a part of this wonderful industry, and I think it's only going to improve. I see that jewelry stores are closing right and left, and most of what I've seen is jewelry stores that are old school, that are still writing hand receipts or using an old antiquated software to keep track of their inventory. They're not managing all their assets properly because they just don't have the tools to do it.
Amazing. And even your website is kind of hip. And I haven't done a lot of research on other jewelers, but I suspect that what you said is true in that regard too. So you've got, it sounds like you have multiple target markets, or at least I'm assuming you do. What is you've got the happy people coming in for celebrations, but what are some of the other targets that you serve? Yeah.
The jewelry is interesting in that most of the time we see a customer for the first time, they're in to get engaged. They're young. This is the biggest spend they've ever had in their life. They're very eager, very nervous. Nowadays, it's beautiful because couples are coming in together, where it's not always just the man trying to keep a surprise. He's very much keeping his future wife in the loop, and they're designing things together. So I think it's unique in that the first time we see them is then. We might not see them for 15, 20 years down the road until after they've had kids leave the house, and now they have a little bit more spendable income to build an heirloom or to build a second wedding ring, an upgrade of their wedding ring. So, it's true. We do have to market to multiple different avenues. As far as the website goes, I just want to touch base on that real quick, because you're right, Lee. Our inventory that's in our store is actively online through our point of sale system. We have a killer photo box inside the shop. We take a lot of our own photos. So if a piece sells, it goes off the website. Everything on our website we have in store ready to sell. That is no easy task. And the website is 100% my wife is the one who makes it as beautiful as it is and keeps it up to date. So
you see how smart he is, Lisa?
Yes.
In the wife and gives her accolades before this thing is
smart on so many levels.
But look at that thought process. What got us here won't get us there. And that is so true in every single industry. The other thing I love, Nathan, is that the technology really brings back the personal piece of what we do, because in Action Coach, we teach people that people like to be communicated in multiple ways, in different modalities, through hearing, through sight, through touch. So you can offer that, because in the past it's been a dreaming thing. And if you were not a kinesthetic creative person, you might not be able to dream that thing, but now you're dreaming it in your head and then sharing it so we can touch it, see it, feel it. That is so cool. I'm just blown away by that. But it doesn't surprise me that you're doing those things. That's for sure.
Thanks.
So yeah, how did the whole COVID thing impact your business? And
sure. Well, at first we were like everybody else. We were just completely frightened. We had no idea what was around the corner.
Yeah.
We had 50 plus days of closure where we could think it through. We changed a lot as far as procedure goes. You'd be amazed how many people come into our jewelry store very proud that they've never removed their wedding ring, that for 30 years it's been on their finger, without thinking of the petri dish that lives in their rings.
Oh.
So it's always been an issue where, watches accumulate dirt. They need to be cleaned. Your jewelry needs to be cleaned. I think that going into it, knowing ahead of time that we do deal with some very dirty jewelry that has to be fully cleaned before we even go to repair it, that we kind of had a leg up knowing what we needed to do. Of course, we changed a few different things since then because we're just kind of adapting. We installed a video doorbell at Burnell, so we kept the front door locked, mostly for security purposes. It had nothing to do with COVID. It was the whole world is wearing masks now, and now you have an excuse to wear a mask into a jewelry store. So we were asking people to ring the doorbell, and we would come unlock the door for them and escort them in and out of the building. That has since changed. We now have the door wide open. People can come and go as they please because we found it really wasn't an issue as far as security is concerned.
Interesting.
So that was a big one.
Yeah. I love that you spent the time on looking at your processes. We were encouraging our coaching clients and us as coaches, because our processes were changing as well. It was a great time to revisit those processes and see what you haven't done, and then ask the question, I get the opportunity to reframe my business. What do I need to do to reframe it? Because we're always saying, oh, if I had it to do over again. Well, we all got a chance to do it over again in those 50 days.
Right.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and a time in which we had said, there's so many things you can't do and you're feeling limited. And that's part of that flight, fright, freeze that we all enter into with some kind of crisis. And then look at the things that we can do. There may not be a lot, but what we can do, we can maximize. So Nathan, when you were talking about, and it's so true, because when I think of jewelers, the first thing that comes to mind is a pad of paper and writing on a receipt and thinking about, going in and taking to repair the jewelry, as opposed to what you are talking about, which is truly a refreshing and progressive and dynamic way to look at it, and maximizing this time and leveraging it. So for instance, what Lee was talking about, we talk about doing a SWOT analysis, and looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that have not just, maybe you've done it in the past, but refresh that in the last couple of quarters, because you will find another USP, unique selling proposition in there that makes you different, that you can market, that's your niche, that you can build upon. The other thing that, again, I think is part of you as a business owner, your USP is you're so engaged and involved with, for instance, the chairperson of WEBA. And, having your background in regards to one part, artistry, third generation, legacy, processes, systems, and then you really believing in being, it appears to me, if you're going to be the chairperson, you're actively involved in also your other business community in all of you rising. How has that impacted you as a business owner in really maximizing that relationship with an organization such as WEBA?
That's a great question. So, I think first it started out as giving back to the community because I am a transplant of Wichita. I grew up in Western Kansas, and believe it or not, most of Kansas outside of the Kansas City area gets Wichita news. So I grew up watching the Wichita news, and all I'd hear was negative things about Wichita because that's just the name of news, But when my wife and I moved here, we found it just a beautiful community and very appealing. Everybody was very welcoming to us. We love it. We will probably live here forever. And I feel like it's kind of a microcosm of just paying back a little bit. I would like to pay back the community that has been so great to us. And Weeb is only the beginning for me. I'm going to continue to donate my time and effort to causes all around Wichita and the Kansas area.
But I think that having that involvement as a leader, especially as you have been, Nathan, it helps you keep your pulse on. You have the advantage in business, and it's not necessarily why you're involved in those organizations, but you can't help but have an advantage from getting to know other business owners and sharing your best practices, and they share theirs, and get educated, like with WEBA and that ongoing education that we get through that organization, and also with the chamber. I believe an educated business owner is the best kind of business owner. We don't know what we don't know.
Truly. And a lot of my contacts going into it, you think that networking is about making more business for yourself, but half of it is truly finding the correct people to take care of tasks that you need done, people that I'm going to give my business to. So yeah, it's kind of a wonderful community. The Wichita business community is the best.
Yeah, it really is. We have more resources than any community that I'm aware of in speaking with the other coaches that I work around. And yeah, we have lots of resources for the size and everything. It's beyond amazing. So I have a question for you. How on earth do you stay in touch with people from engagement ring to the next piece of jewelry I want to buy?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So there's multiple ways. We have a beautiful point of sale system that really kind of intrigues or entices sales associates to reach out and clientele. That includes, in 6 months, reach out to so-and-so. 6 months ago, you sold an engagement ring. Call them and remind them that it's time to clean their jewelry or get their ring checked and cleaned. We do multiple touches throughout the year because we have events, and we send out postcards to our entire mailing list multiple times a year. So, we'll bring in vendors from Italy, vendors from Barcelona, Spain, vendors from all over the world and all over the United States that we love doing business with and that are passionate about jewelry and new products in jewelry. So we just kind of share what events we're doing at Burnell's. Of course, outside the postal system, we do Facebook, Instagram. I highly encourage you to follow Burnell's Jewelry on Instagram. It's a lot of fun that we do on that channel in particular.
Okay, everyone has that. Everyone, you should be getting a lot more people following you on Instagram. That's great. And how many jewelers do you think are on Instagram, Nathan, if you had to guess?
Yes.
Honestly, it's the way to go. If you're a jeweler, we are very eyesight. We're very picture oriented. You know a beautiful piece of jewelry when you see it. Versus, Facebook is great. You can post photos on Facebook, but Instagram is exclusively photos. There's not as much drama on Instagram as there is on Facebook. So although you're right, probably not a lot of jewelers, I would strongly encourage any jeweler out there, get on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that 60% of the population is more visual than not. And you have to, if your clientele is 60% of the population, then you've got to address that. So that's why the live videos and things that people are doing now, and why Facebook is so popular, because it's so visual and it gets those 60%. Because let's face it, that's who we're talking to. We don't have any choice, right?
Right. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Lisa?
Yeah, I was going to say, when Lee was reading your bio, she talked about you being a podcast junkie. I am a podcast junkie. I have an extensive library that ranges from the art of opera, breaking down arias, to Freakonomics, and I love to listen to all of it. What is a podcast that stands out, or somebody who does a podcast that's been influential for you as a business owner, business leader? Is there something that comes to mind that people can start to listen to that would help them?
Sure. Not necessarily business oriented, but part of my job is I sit at the bench most days, and I have a headset on, a visor with the magnification, and I have one earbud in. it helps me focus on what's straight ahead of me, so to just let go of the outside world. I still answer phone calls. I still deal with customers all the time and employee issues all the time. But these podcasts and audiobooks for me just do it where I can just unplug completely. So a lot of what I'm into is something that, because I'm interrupted so regularly, I could set down and pick back up and just enjoy it, unplug. I listen to a lot of the, oh goodness, let's give her a real plug. FBI Retired Case File Review with Jerry Williams. She breaks down old FBI cases that are unclassified now or just recently declassified, and breaks down why criminals got caught. And a lot of the times they're very clever criminals, and they just so happen to get caught because of some happenstance that occurs 10 years later. There's a killer one on a jewelry store burglary also that was pretty intriguing, that we changed our method because of that podcast.
There you go. There's the education. There's the education piece. And education isn't about formal education. It's about education in every way, in the crooks and crannies of places and people that we can find that. I love that. That's going to be my number one takeaway from today.
And Nathan, also, you gave me a new way to look at podcasts too, because you're right. There is something to be said in regards to the work that we need to focus on and what it is that you need to become tunnel vision in that focus. So many times, Lee, I think you agree, when we're working with our clients, one of the greatest things we can teach them is about focus and follow one course until successful. And if we're dissolving and diluting our time in between and we're distracted, then we're not able to actually execute. So I love that it's a means to support you. And I can totally envision how you do what you do, with when you said what you're talking about and having them in there. And that really helps you to focus and complete and stay on track for doing what you need to do.
That's great.
So thank you.
Lisa, that was cool. Did you catch that, Nathan? Follow one course until successful is an acronym for focus. I had not heard that before. Is that one of yours? And okay, did you make that one up yourself? Did you develop that one, Lisa? That acronym?
Listen, I thought it came from Action Coach. So I'll give and if it didn't, then Action Coach, they probably, if they're listening, they'll say, hey, let's put that into our.
Well, there are only a billion things in there. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So last question, and then we want to make sure that we can tell people how to find you, Nathan. Even if you're from out of state, we want to let people know they can get a hold of you. So what are some of the lessons you've learned along the way that could benefit other entrepreneurs?
Nothing trumps hard work, I think, is the biggest. Malcolm Gladwell started the whole 10,000 hour become a master thing. And I've developed it at the bench where, it takes me 10,000 hours with the torch in my hand to become a master torch smith. It takes me 10,000 hours of gemstone setting to become a master gem setter. It takes me 10,000 hours of polishing to be a master polisher. So it's not that you just do 10,000 hours at anything that you do. Break it down, focus on one area, and you will improve in that area over time. And it just takes time and hard work to do that. Slight caveat, the biggest lesson I've ever learned is when I left my family's jewelry store and really learned from somebody outside my family on how they do business. It wasn't that my family wasn't good at it, because they were great at it. It was that it opened my mind to a whole different channel of information that came in. So if you're in a family business out there and you're not getting respect, you feel you hit a wall, whatever it is that you want to do with that family business, leave. Go experience something else somewhere else and come back to it. It will always be there. You will learn an immense amount from people that you don't expect to. You always be a student, and you'll always end up being a teacher in that mindset.
Always be a student, and then you'll always be a teacher. I love that. Thank you very much. Well, I supremely enjoyed this time and getting to know a little more about you and your organization and how you see things differently. And I'm so glad to be a part of your success and to watch you move along in your career and watch the amazing things at Burnell's. So how do we want to let people know how they can best get a hold of you, Nathan?
Sure. Our website is burnells.com. That's BURNELLS.com. You could find us on all the social medias, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter. We are on LinkedIn as well. My email address is nathan@burnells.com. Anytime.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
So Lisa, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
They can visit our website at onetruenorthcoach.com. We have past interviews on there that we've had with Business Spotlight. We have a COVID-19 resource page, which we've posted a lot of great information for our business owners to help them navigate through this unprecedented time. And every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have a complimentary virtual meetup in which we go through best business practices with business owners that can call in and we can have a dialogue and help them out. And you can look at our website and find out more about how to reach us there. And thank you, Nathan. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you, Lisa.
It was really, really great. So you can find me at kansasbizcoach.com or find me on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn and all those other places. We also do a complimentary no charge event for business owners and influencers, anyone who wants to speak to other business owners and ask advice. And that's called Mastermind Feed Forward. And we do it on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. Central for Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. And we go for exactly 30 minutes on that. And it's a really powerful event. So I'd love to invite you all to attend that. So who is our guest next week, Lisa?
Our guest next week is Amanda Benson-Tilsch, and she'll be on here to talk about how she's been so influential in regards to her marketing business.
So it's going to be really good because she's brilliant from what I understand. I'm excited about that. So, well, Nathan, thank you again. So we will get this video over to you so you can share it on your spaces, and we will put it out on our social media. And in the meantime, it's Lee and Lisa, Business Spotlight, It's easy for me to say, learn and leverage with Lee and Lisa. We will see you all in 1 week.